Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is Women Can Make the World Better. In this article, the writer says that economic history has been dominated by men, with the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences awarded to 90 men since 1969. However, only 3 women have been awarded this prize. Elinor Ostrom in 2009 for explaining how local communities govern themselves, Esther Duflo in 2019 for her experimental work in alleviating global poverty, and Claudia Golden in 2023 for her work explaining why women earn less money than men, even when they do the same work. Economic science is focused on studying systems for producing economically valuable goods and services efficiently. Natural and human resources are measured in money terms, and women are considered less valuable in economic enterprises because they cannot commit to continuous working full-time for their employers. The future of work in India presents a special challenge, as long-term employment in industrial forms is becoming harder to find in rich countries, and more employment is being generated in gig economies and informal sectors. Even in large industrial establishments, jobs are on short-term contracts. India, which ranks 132 out of 191 countries in human development, needs to invest more in caregiving services, which are not valued in the money economy. The Indian Prime Minister has called on the G20 to support human-centric development going beyond GDP, calling for a different vision at the G20. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One family, one earth, one future. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, cover a range of environmental, social, and economic problems that must be solved simultaneously to make progress more inclusive and sustainable. The G20 has assessed that global progress on SDGs is off track with only 12% of targets on track by 2030. To achieve the SDGs, policymakers must change their approach and focus on empowering women to contribute to the economy and society. The next article is A China-India Partnership, Its Vast Global Potential. In this article, the writer says that the crisis in Ukraine continues to persist as new conflicts emerge in West Asia. Traditional and non-traditional security threats are interlocked, and global defenses in peace, development, security, and governance are growing. As Asian civilizations living side by side for thousands of years, China and India share common thoughts on the future and destiny of mankind. The Chinese people have cherished the vision of a world of fairness and justice for the common good since ancient times, and ancient Indian literature records the motto of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. In the 1950s, China and India jointly initiated the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, which have become basic norms governing international relations. As 2 of the largest developing countries and emerging market economies, they have the responsibility, ability, and opportunity to illuminate the path forward for mankind with Oriental wisdom. China's President Xi Jinping has given out the answer to build a global community of shared future, which has been included in United Nations General Assembly resolutions for 6 consecutive years, and incorporated in resolutions and declarations of multilateral mechanisms such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, and BRICS. The vision points include keeping to the correct direction of economic globalization, jointly building an open world economy that represents the demands and interests of developing countries, rejecting unilateralism, protectionism, decoupling, and the zero-sum game of the winner takes all, following the right path of peaceful development, working together to pursue peace, safeguard peace, and share peace, fostering a new type of international relations, practicing true multilateralism, and ensuring that the world needs peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit. The next article is Mystery Trial. India must leverage ties with Qatar to free its citizens facing death penalty. In this article, the writer says that a Qatari court has handed down a death sentence to 8 Indian Navy officers accused of espionage. The case is a major test of the Narendra Modi government's diplomatic skills. The trial was shrouded in secrecy, with little information on the charges and evidence against the former Indian Navy officers. Leaked reports suggest that the men have been accused of sharing secret information about a stealth submarine program they worked on with a third country. India's ties with Qatar have been relatively better, with India sourcing 40% of its LNG needs and being the 3rd biggest source of imports. The government must ensure the Indians are given the best possible support in an appeal and demonstrate that the lives of the men are a priority for their country and the country. The next article is from the Hindu Business Line, that is, pushing solar panel makers to go local. In this article, the writer says that the Indian government and industry are working to make solar energy more dependent on domestic content versus cheap imports. The Ministry of New and AMP Renewable Energies Grid Solar Division issued an official memo on penalties for violating domestic content requirement (DCR) norms for solar photovoltaic (PV) power projects under its schemes and programs. The government has been encouraging domestic manufacturing of solar PV cells and modules where permitted by the WTO. In February 2018, the government decided that any violation of the DCR provision would lead to filing of criminal cases under IPC, blacklisting of developers for 10 years, counterfeiting of relevant bank guarantees, disciplinary cases against officials of the central public sector undertaking or state government concerned, and other actions. However, instances of cheap imported products have been used. The government is implementing the Production-Linked Incentive (PLI) scheme for achieving manufacturing capacity of gigawatt (GW) scale in high-efficiency solar PV modules with an outlay of Rs 24,000 crore. However, it will take time before India actually gets sufficient production capacity. The latest office memo applies to earlier identified DCR-based projects, aiming to bring domestic products on par with imported ones, especially cheap Chinese cells and modules. However, the government has exemplified solar power project developers from the requirement to procure solar modules from manufacturers who are in the approved list of models and manufacturers, ALMM. The focus for domestic players will be not only to be cost competitive but also to produce efficient products. The government plans to register solar panels that have domestically manufactured cells, wafers, and polysilicon in order to be registered under the ALM. India is slowly emerging as one of the largest manufacturing bases for solar manufacturing in the world, and thanks to PLI 1 and 2, the country will be in a position to overcome this challenge by the end of 2024, especially when it comes to cell integration.